organizational system. So isa doon sa sinasabi nilang makikita niyo yung intent at policy, doon sa mga words niya na binigkas, at madami po iyon. At hindi lang po doon nakikita kasi ang policy, isa lang po yung parte ng ebidensya, sapagkat po ang policy ayon sa alituntunin ng ating ICC ay makikita mo rin sa iba't ibang mga pamamaraan. Madalas bang nangyayari yan? Bakit pare-pareho ba ang modus operandi? Pare-pareho ba ang nature ng lugar kung saan nangyayari yan? Sa urban areas lang ba yan? O sa mga rural areas? O sa mga libre? Diyan po nakikita yung organizational system. Isa lang po yung kasi po sa international law, meron pong decision yung Rwanda na Hayama na yung mga taong nagsasalita kahit na po parang pagkatapos sinasabi nila na para in good ang layunin lang naman dito ay para matakot ang tao. Sinasabi po ng decision na yun, ang pagsasalita rin po ay powerful na nakapag-i-inspire hindi lang sa mga taong opisyal na military, kundi sa mga vigilantes. At kasama rin po iyon doon sa pagdetermine ng organizational and policy setup. Ayan po yun. Ganun po yan. Kaya alam mo Andrew, talagang dapat talaga nasa ICC to no? Kasi iba ang mga alituntunin doon sa ICC para patunayan ng isang crime against humanity. Diba?
Yung nabanggit nga natin kahapon, din na pinag-usapan. Kung dito sa Pilipinas yan ginawa,
wala na.
Yung korte, yung prosecution, yung defense, sabay-sabay tayong mag-aaral kung paano natin ina-navigate itong kaso na to. At least with the ICC, alam na nila kung paano nila gagawin.
Yes, alam na nila kung anong gagawin. Palagi ko alam na ng mga judge, sa utak nila hinihiwalay na ito irrelevant yung sinasabi niya yan. Ito relevant yan. Ito irrelevant yan. Diba? Sa kanilang talaga itong mga opening statement, it's not anyway the presentation of evidence. Bukas pa po yun Very interesting po ang presentation of evidence na tsaka pinasaringan pa yung isang, siguro sino ba yung star witness diyan? So I think pinasaringan pa ni Kaufman, pero hindi ko lang matandaan. Pero kasi ang tumatak sa ulo ko yung Nobel Peace Prize
Yes,
si
ako
Maria
din.
Ressa.
Sobrang specific nun. Hindi pinangalanan pero sobrang specific. So alam mo kung sino yung pinaparinggan niya dun Ito din sabi ni Jos Jablo, sabi niya, discredit the media, create a common villain, weaken the academe, give more power to uniform.
Si Dean Santa Maria yan kinakalala. Actually nakalive pa rin lahat. ABS-CBN, GMA, pinag-uusapan nila. Tapos hindi pa nag-start, sabay nakatutok. Inquirer. Ito ginagawa ng Inquirer. Rewind.
The all-new MG ZS
Inquirer pa naman.
Step up. Stand out.
Replay kay Inquirer.
Throughout his mayoral and presidential tenure, promising to reduce
sige,
crimes
wala
by killing
kanina.
alleged
Nangyari
criminals,
kanina.
promoting the common plan, and urging police and even members of the public
Nag-aabang tayo ng
to kill
update.
alleged criminals. As detailed in the prosecution reconfirmation brief, and as your honor will hear in the course of my team's presentation, Mr. Duterte also made statements directly acknowledging allegation of extrajudicial killings by his subordinates and issued a written order showing he knew about the crimes they committed. Your Honors, the prosecution relies on significant and varied sources of evidence to demonstrate that substantial ground exists to believe that Mr. Duterte is criminally responsible for the crimes.
In few minutes,
This evidence
na
includes
sigurado.
multiple witness statements, including insider witnesses. It includes many speeches of Mr. Duterte himself, as well as the statement of his co-perpetrators. It also includes orders and other
mukhang
documents
babanggitin dito si
signed
Bato.
by himself.
Si Bato, si Bongo.
The prosecution
Balita ko
further
bakit
relies on official government document, including material from the Philippine National Police. It relies on drug watch list, on audio and video material, as well as on forensic and financial evidence. Your Honors, during the prosecution subsequent presentation, my colleague will elaborate on some of these core evidence in more detail.
Wala pa, Rani Shera. Sa
Nichols
process yun. Sa court.
Will give a presentation
Kwan
on
pa lang
Mr.
ngayon.
Duterte's background,
Ano
followed
yan?
by an overview of the evidence demonstrating
Ano yung
his
court dyan?
responsibility for the crime
Opening statement.
charged in count
Opening
1.
statement lang ng bawat kampo
This
pa
will
lang.
be followed by the presentation of Mr. Jeremy behind me, who will speak about the evidence demonstrating Mr. Duterte's responsibility as president for the crime charged in count 2 and 3.
Nakapag-dinner ba kayo, mga kapsat?
And Ms. Croft,
Nakapag-dinner na ba
on my
lahat?
left, will
Tingnan
then
nyo,
elaborate
1 hour,
on the
30 minutes.
contextual
break yun, no?
element of crime against humanity and the mode of liability through which Mr. Duterte is responsible for the crimes alleged in this case. And to conclude, Madam President, Your Honor, while this court cannot reunite victim with their loved one, it can help reveal the truth about what happened to them and bring a sense of justice to the victim. The charge before you today are serious, and the evidence submitted require their confirmation. And Mr. Duterte must be held to account, and this case should be confirmed for trial. I thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Prosecutor. Now we are slightly in advance in our
Wow.
schedule. I will now hand over to the legal representative of victims for her opening statements until 11. And then
Opening
after
statement
that,
lang muna.
I'll continue. Please proceed, ma'am.
Again, sa mga bagong pasok, like tayo, mga kapsat. Like po tayo, ha. Baka nakalimutan nyo mag-like. Watching from Seoul, South Korea. Pa-shoutout po, Manong, sa buong Balawang
Madam President,
Agriculture.
Your Honors,
Ay, Kabagan.
by way of an opening statement,
To
we convey the
Pauni,
views and
Isabella
concerns
from Chen.
of the
Thanks po,
497
Manong.
victims
Salamat.
authorized to participate in these proceedings. At the outset, Your Honors, we communicate the very deep disappointment of the victims
Ito na.
at the decision allowing Rodrigo Duterte not to be present.
Ito na. Oh, sabi ko na magbabalik. Anytime.
Bonjour
Okay
à
din
tous à nouveau.
Okay ang ICC, no?
Once
On time
again,
talaga
good
sila,
day,
on time.
everyone. We will now move on to
Okay, resume na.
submissions on the merits. Mr. Prosecutor, please proceed. You have 1 hour today.
Wow, 1 hour! Merits. Ayan na. Merit.
Thank you very much, Madam President, Your Honors. My name is Julian Nichols, and good afternoon to you and to
Nicholas.
my colleagues on the other side and to everybody in the courtroom.
Confirmation of charges.
Your Honors, we're here today because the evidence shows, despite what we heard for the last 30 minutes before the break, that Mr. Duterte murdered thousands of his own people, Filipino men, women, and children. He was at the center of a common plan, which included the murder of alleged criminals throughout the Philippines. The plan was first implemented in Mr. Duterte's hometown of Davao.
Teka, tanggalin ko yung background music.
While mayor, he promised to clean up the city
Yan.
by killing alleged criminals. He kept that promise, and he murdered hundreds through so-called liquidation squads, death squads. These liquidation squads became notoriously known colloquially as the Davao Death Squad, or DDS. After years, 2 decades, of murdering alleged criminals as mayor of Davao, it became clear to him that this political strategy could be leveraged for higher office and for more power, the presidency. And that is exactly what he did. During his campaign to be president, Mr. Duterte expressly promised many times that he would kill criminals if elected. He claimed that Davao was Exhibit A in why he should be elected. And he pledged that if he won, he would expand the killings nationwide. He won, and that is what he did. And as you will hear tomorrow from Mr. Jeremy and Ms. Croft, the murders skyrocketed in the months immediately after Mr. Duterte became president in June 2016. And that was no coincidence. That was him fulfilling his campaign pledge. As president, he murdered thousands using many of the same co-perpetrators and methods from his time as mayor of Davao. So he moved the method and some of the co-perpetrators to Manila in order to expand the crimes. The victims in this case ranged from powerful individuals to predominantly the poorest citizens of the Philippines. Now, why were the poor selected and victimized? Well, it was often because they were the most vulnerable, and they didn't have the families and the power to make police reports, and they were the most afraid. Mr. Duterte boasted about the killings that resulted in thousands of deaths at his order, and not once at any time has he shown any remorse. He promised also, you will hear, to take responsibility, personal responsibility for the killings, if need be. Well, that time has come. We are confident that if your honors confirm the charges in this case, that we will prevail and Mr. Duterte will be convicted at trial. We talk a little bit about what my friend, one of the things he said during his 30 minutes. In our presentation today, you will hear Mr. Duterte, in his own words, calling for killings, bragging about killings, and as I said, vowing to take responsibility for those killings if necessary. And the defense, I have in my outline, may claim, but they already have, the defense claim that this is hyperbole, bluster, exaggeration, part of his blunt or direct strongman political speech, which had brought him political success in Davao and then nationwide. And the defense will also point your honors to many instances where Mr. Duterte and his allies tried to build a veneer, kind of fig leaf of plausible deniability by sprinkling in references to the effect that the police should only shoot to kill in self-defense. Those references to self-defense appear throughout Mr. Duterte's speeches. They're all over the place. We don't run away from that. We don't shy away from that. That's part of our theory. So the defense will say, and again, they already have, that we've cherry-picked the statements we show you, but we have not. We acknowledge these many references to self-defense in Mr. Duterte's speeches. But the evidence which is in our pre-confirmation brief, and some of which will lead today, overwhelmingly shows that those references to self-defense and following the law and to due process are nothing but nonsense. Keep in mind, as mayor, he created a death squad, a leader who creates, leads, arms, and funds A death squad is not interested in due process or following the law. Those empty utterances were simply Mr. Duterte, who's chosen not to be here today. Those were simply him acting as the former prosecutor, trying to build in some semblance of a defense, preparing for the day, should it ever come, as it now has, that he would be held to account. It was to give his lawyers something to say. But look at it over here, where I said don't shoot except in self-defense. The reality is that Mr. Duterte's message was clear, and it was understood by the perpetrators, and it was followed. That message was, commit murder at my direction, and I will protect you, I will pay you, I will promote you. And that's what happened. And I'll say this as well, Your Honors. For purposes of this confirmation hearing, disregard every speech ever made by Mr. Duterte. Throw them all out. There is still ample evidence of substantial grounds based on the other evidence which we have put on our list of evidence. And the evidence as a whole, when you weigh it together, will show that what my friend said is not correct. That Mr. Duterte intended for his subordinates to follow the law, and that he was interested, and that his speeches were simply bluster. I'll talk briefly now about the charges in the case. As the deputy prosecutor stated, we have 49 incidents totaling 76 murder victims and 2 victims of attempted murder. And of course, those are expanded upon in our pretrial brief, or PCB. Now, as my friends said in the LRV, while there are countless victims who've experienced harm as a result of Mr. Duterte's crimes, we have focused the charges in this case to these 49 incidents and these number of victims in order to ensure that this trial can be expeditious and that it can be efficient and that it won't go on for years and years. So these charged murders are emblematic. They're representative of Mr. Duterte's larger killing campaign. I was going to talk about the legal standard for today, but Your Honors explained it extremely clearly in the beginning of the introduction, so I won't go into it other than to say, of course, the standard we have to meet is substantial grounds, which I am confident we will. The only thing I would add is that this stage of the proceedings, in addition to not being a mini trial or a trial before a trial, it's also not the time for the chamber to in-depth determine the credibility of witnesses. That can only properly be addressed at trial by the trial chamber when the witnesses are called to testify before the judges and their evidence is properly tested. And there I would point Your Honors to the Said confirmation decision, 9 December 2021, at paragraph 39. We'll move on now. We can go to the next slide, James. I'll talk a little bit about Mr. Duterte's background. He was born on the 28th of March, 1945, and he prides himself, or portrays himself at least, as someone who understands the problems of the poor. But as my friend stated, he actually comes from a very privileged family. His father was a lawyer, a politician, even a provincial governor. And as a young man, Mr. Duterte became a lawyer. He went to law school, practiced as a prosecutor in Davao City for almost a decade, from 1977 to 1986. And you find that in our pre-confirmation brief at paragraph 2. While he was a prosecutor, excuse me, he taught criminal law and procedure to police officers in Davao City. And despite this privileged background, despite his deep familiarity with the law and criminal law, Mr. Duterte embraced criminality from the beginning of his career. It's just one example. As a prosecutor, the evidence shows he taught police officers to plant evidence. We can go to the next slide, please, James. I won't read the whole slide out, Your Honors. This is tab 57, PHL OTP 000-15506 R01. But this witness with direct knowledge stated, quote, "He's like planting of evidence. It is necessary," and he is Duterte. He called it necessary evil. So they said that there are times in police work that you have to do the necessary evil for the sake of the common good, end quote. And I think you'll see, Your Honors, that that's a theme that runs through Mr. Duterte's career. He's willing to do whatever he considers the necessary evil, either for the common good or for his political advancement, or both. And Mr. Duterte confirmed years later, in 2024, when being questioned under oath during a hearing in the Philippines House of Representatives, that planting evidence was his strategy as mayor. Now, at first he denied it in this hearing, but then he admitted to planting evidence in this exchange. If we can go to the next slide. This is tab 46.1, Your Honors. Chairperson, quote, so you really did plant evidence. Mr. Duterte's answer, well, that was part of the strategy as a mayor and as a leader of the law enforcement agency in the city, end quote. His privilege, his legal background makes this betrayal of the law and embrace of murder even more inexcusable. He knew, as a lawyer, as a former prosecutor, that his so-called crackdown on crime was a criminal attack on civilians of the Philippines. And overwhelmingly, the evidence shows, on poor civilians. The poorest of the poor were his victims. He knew his conduct, at its core, was criminal. And not only did Mr. Duterte clearly intend his criminality, he openly bragged about it. Right up until his arrest, and we'll get to that later, but right up until his arrest, he bragged about it. He thrives on a tough guy persona or image that he's tried to create for himself. My friend talked about him riding motorcycles. Well, one example I'll show you is from 2007 now, if we could play that, James. And I should say this is tab 18.
Elite, never losing an election.
So, riding a Harley Davidson, shooting a semi-automatic pistol. This is the image he's trying to create from the beginning. He likes to pose with